say the bowling alleys, they got the lanes, happy lanes.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am once again your host, Bill, bringing you another episode of Umpteenth Time Hearing, where I'm pulling these generally obscure artists or generally obscure songs, usually but not always, and most of them from the 1980s, an era when I knew a lot of this type of music. And I'm just putting them out there, playing the songs start to finish, in the hopes that my umpteenth time hearing these pieces of music might be your first time hearing. Trying to take the concept of music reaction videos that you see on YouTube and flip it on its head, so that I am creating first time hearing opportunities rather than experiencing one, although I'll never get to see those first time reactions. But in the hopes of doing that, that's why I'm choosing these fairly obscure songs that people might not know otherwise. Now, sometimes the artists are a bit more mainstream, as you saw last week when I took inspiration from a concert I went to in college to cover both 10,000 Maniacs and R.E.M. in the same program. This week, as I hinted at last week, I'm instead drawing my inspiration from daytime television talk show of the era. Now, the show I'm drawing inspiration from was from the 1980s, but I want to first tell you about one that followed it in the 1990s, and that was the Jerry Springer Show. Jerry Springer was a one-term mayor of Cincinnati, having been on the city council there, and became a local, or was already, I'm not exactly positive, a local television talk show personality. And in 1991, he launched his self-titled daytime talk show, the eponymous Jerry Springer Show, which started as fairly serious television with political guests like Oliver North, for example. But in 94, he and his producer decided to change the format, and it basically became like the National Enquirer on television. I mean, episodes like, my mama's baby daddy slept with my sister's twin, which would be me, or just ridiculous stuff like that. Just people yelling at each other, throwing crap around, getting into fights where they were ripping clothes off. I mean, you had to have sensors over body parts on a regular basis. It was garbage, in my opinion. I came across it and I could watch like seconds of it before changing the channel. But the precursor to that inspired this song for this week's show, it inspired how I used it on my DJ program, on my radio show in college, was the Geraldo Rivera Show, which ran during the 1980s. And like Jerry Springer, in '88, they discovered that there was a real ratings boost to be had with this type of television. He was the founder, really, of what became known as trash TV. And this all came about in 1988 and I'm actually kind of surprised that it took Jerry Springer 3 years before he made this change, because Geraldo had already demonstrated that this kind of thing gets ratings. Because in 1988, in a volatile program featuring white supremacists, anti-racist skinheads, and militant Jews, amongst others, a fight broke out, and Jerry Springer got his nose broken and was appearing on the show afterwards with a big bandage over his nose. And me being, a snarky young college kid, what's the guy to do? I dedicated Take the Skinheads Bowling to him on my next radio program. And so inspired by that, that's why we have it on this show this week. I don't want to keep you from it any longer, though. If you're interested, the lyrics are, as always, posted in the top pinned comment below, as with a couple of links that you might find interesting. While you're checking those out and down there looking at those, don't forget to click on that subscribe button and appreciate those likes, certainly. Ring that notification bell if you're interested in finding out what might be coming up next week, because it's going to be nothing like what's on this week's show. And then don't hesitate to add any comments, your reaction to the artist, the song, the concept of the program. Let me know what you think. But for now, I don't want to keep you any longer. Let's get right into it. This is Camper Van Beethoven with Take the Skinheads Bowling. Enjoy.
So I don't know if you know that this building used to be bowling alley, right? Okay, and do you know what's filmed in this building? It's the video for Take the Skinheads Bowling is filmed. We're down at that lane over there. I'm pointing, lanes aren't there anymore.
Every day I get up and play the job. they got big lanes, got big lanes, got big lanes. Some people say the bowling alleys, they all look the same. Look the same, look the same. There's no line that goes here to run for anything. Anything, anything. Had a dream last night, but I forget what it was. What it was, that it is. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling. Had a dream last night about you, my friend. Had a dream, I wanted to sleep next to plastic. I had a dream, I wanted to lick your knees. Had a dream, it was about nothing. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling. Take the skinheads bowling, take them bowling.
Thank you.
Okay, and there you have it. Now, I know I say this a lot on this show, but I love that song. I mean, loving these songs is why I'm doing this show. But that one's just such a blast. So catchy and nonsensical. I don't know how you cannot like it. You know, I swear, every friend of mine that I've ever played that song for who didn't know it has wound up liking it. Now, Camper Van Beethoven, as is true with a lot of bands that have been around for decades at a time, they've been through any number of lineup changes. This was true even during the first decade or so of their first 5 albums, up through the 80s and I believe into the early 90s. And then they were disbanded for much of the 90s. Lead singer David Lowery and others went on to form Cracker, and one of the other frequent members, not because there were so few who were constant members, went on to join Counting Crows. And then subsequently, of course, band got back together. I'd say of course, but in this case, yes, band did get back together and produce more music, more albums coming out, not all that frequently as it had been, and touring, from what I gather, even less frequently. But worth mentioning, though, is one of, if not their last album since they got back together, isn't so much a standalone album, but they did a movie soundtrack. And this is just perfect for this band. Camper Van Beethoven did the soundtrack to Sharknado 3, Oh Hell No. And that sounds like the perfect note on which to end this week's show. Now, starting next week, we're getting into the month of October. So I have a run of 5 songs. We have 5 Mondays next month that are all not Halloween themed, but just kind of creepy, eerie, maybe a little bit of a horror theme of some sort, just to kind of carry the tune and carry the theme in the lead up to Halloween. And as it happens, all of the artists they're all taken from the whole list of artists I have that I want to get to over the course of this program, but they're all from England. Not to say that all artists or England itself are creepy and filled with horror. That's just the fact of the matter for the songs that I've picked. And I'm going to get started next week with one of the more well-known artists, particularly for those who are in England, other parts of Europe, knew the music of the era. This is one of the iconic post-punk bands out of England, with their biggest hit, really. So those who know the music will recognize this song. You might not be able to guess it from just that hint, but I'm going to make you wait till next week to find out. So for now, hey, thanks so much for tuning in as always. And as always, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Have yourselves a great rest of the day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.